Oh, I wish I had time to pull this guy over and take a look inside of it. That is the first spacecraft fifth wheel I've ever seen in person. So I have with me the brand new Fort Knox locks for the second generation Reese Goosebox, and I think it's still compatible with the first generation, but they've basically widened this area right here to allow it to clamp around. And there you go. Let's put a lock on it and see how it works. There we go, all locked up. Cool upgrade. Only took them a week to get this modified to fit. Works perfectly. I'm still going to use this locking system up here whenever it's hooked to the truck with the lock that I had here, simply because that'll add extra security. And I can even lock it in place here with the lock. But just to see if I can double secure it, I'm going to see if this lock will still fit around here. Now that is one secure system. So one thing I want to point out, and every time I do a review on the Fort Knox locks, people point this out in the video. They say they should have used an interior hinging mechanism here because you can simply take a grinder and cut this hinge off and open it. But that's not true. As long as this lock is in place, this does not act as a hinge. So even if you cut that off, you won't be able to open the jaws to actually remove it from the trailer. You'd have to cut this entire side off as well to gain access. So a lot of people, again, when you look at the hinge and you say, well, why isn't it on the inside? This gives you a really, really secure mechanism to protect your RV or whatever you're going to put it on, just considering the fact that it essentially has to be cut off on both sides to access it. And again, if you have the right tools to cut this off, you have the right tools to do a lot of different things, that would probably be a lot quicker than cutting this off. Guys, this is a really cool locking system. I'll put a link in the description of the video if you're interested in it. Again, it is designed to fit the new second generation Reese Goosebox. Very cool product, very, very well constructed. Abloy puck lock cylinder. I know somebody sent me a link to another one that did not use the Abloy cylinder, but this is far more secure than that other locking mechanism was, and this is definitely a great setup for your Goosebox. Guys, I want to take a moment and answer a question that a lot of people ask about our fifth wheel and my truck in particular. So as you guys can see, we have a toolbox on the truck, and that toolbox takes up roughly 20 inches of length of the bed. Behind that, I have an access roll-up bed cover. Now people say, do I still have clearance whenever I make a 90-degree turn with my fifth wheel hooked up to the truck? And let me explain why I can get very close to 90 degrees. So when you look at this Keystone Sprinter fifth wheel that's next to mine, you can see that it's also kind of notched back up front here. And that is used to give you a little bit more clearance whenever you're turning, so you can have a tighter turn, especially if you have a short bed truck. However, the difference between that and my chaparral is that the chaparral is actually notched back into the frame. So this goes back far further than just about any other fifth wheel on the market. So if I take my trusty tape measure, and if I measure from right here at the corner to the front corner here, let me show you the difference. It is roughly 44 inches long. Now if you look at the chaparral is roughly 34 inches long. So even with an aggressive front slope on this specific fifth wheel designed to help it turn in a tight position, the chaparral is still significantly more pushed back on the front corners of the front cap. Something else to notice is where it actually couples to the truck in relationship to where this corner is. As you can see, if you look at the back bolts of the wings here that hold on the Goosebox, they are about a foot in front of this specific corner. Now, if you look at this Keystone, the back bolts of where the wings are lined up with this corner. So on the chaparral, this corner is pushed all the way back to about here versus this Keystone, which is right here. And that's another huge reason why I can get so much tighter of a turn with the trailer in conjunction to my toolbox in my truck. And if you look at either this DRV or this Fusion, the bolt placement of the back wings are well into the actual overhang, probably nearly 30 inches in right here, which means there's no way I could have a toolbox with this fifth wheel hooked up to my truck without risking contact to either the toolbox or the cab of the truck. And that's the same with the Fusion as well, where you can see the rear bolts of the wings are about 15 inches into the overhang, where on the Chaparral, the overhang would be right around here. And even when you're comparing it to this reflection from Grand Design, which is right next door, if you look at where these rear bolts are in conjunction to the front corner, it's lined up right about here, which again is actually closer to maybe 14 inches from the actual corner here, which would be the part that would make contact with the toolbox. And on this reflection, the back bolts are right here, which are about a foot into the overhang. So as comparison, the overhang on the Chaparral comes back to about here, whereas the overhang on the Grand Design is right around here, which means if my toolbox would normally be right around here when I'm turning, I would still have clearance with the Chaparral, but on the Grand Design, it would make contact with this part of the fifth wheel. Anyways, guys, I wanted to take a moment to explain that because a lot of people ask how I'm able to accomplish such a tight turn with the toolbox, and it's really simply because of the design of the front of the Chaparral. They did a great job notching this into the frame so it pushes this entire assembly back. Most fifth wheels, it comes down, and it comes down to about this point right here, or even right here, which is well ahead of where it is on the Chaparral. Now let's talk about what Chaparral had to give up to be able to do this. So to do this, they had to take away a little bit of the closet space you're going to get up front. Basically, this pushes back into about that area where the closet is, and that's one of the reasons why you can't put a stackable washer and dryer. You'd have to get a combo unit. And another reason why they put the washer and dryer hookup in the center of the closet where this big hump is versus on the sides like you see in a lot of fifth wheels. Anyways, I hope that explained things clearly. If you had any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, if you could, take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you again very soon.